Chapter 13. The Full Moon's Reckoning, New Orleans. July 1925. St. Roch's Cemetery lay on the eastern edge of New Orleans, a sprawling necropolis of crumbling mausoleums and weathered crosses, its iron gates rusted and creaking in the humid night breeze. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, its silver light casting an eerie glow over the graves, turning the cemetery into a labyrinth of shadows and stone. Julien Dubois crouched behind a cracked marble angel, his revolver in one hand, the anointed silver medallion in the other, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat against his palm. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, decay, and something darker, blood fresh and metallic, a harbinger of the ritual they'd come to stop. At 35, Julien was a man on the brink, his Creole heritage and Catholic faith stretched to their limits by the supernatural horror he now faced head-on. The medallion, anointed with Mama Zora's potion and holy water, burned with a power he could feel in his bones, a weapon against the vampires he knew were waiting. But it was the weight of being the marked one that pressed heaviest on him, the spirit girl from his past, her hollow eyes, her whispered voice in the bayou, a constant reminder that his life was the final piece of Victor Leroux's ritual. His hand brushed the rosary in his pocket, a reflex that offered little comfort now, the prayers of his childhood drowned out by the thud of his own heartbeat. Celeste Moreau knelt beside him, her practical blouse and trousers blending into the shadows, her auburn hair tied back to keep it out of her face. At 28, she was a storm of resolve, her green eyes sharp with focus, her small derringer gripped tightly in her hand. Her purse, holding the 1895 case file and her notepad, was slung across her shoulder, a testament to her journalist's instinct to document everything, even in the face of death. She'd fought vampires, survived ambushes, and now stood on the edge of the greatest story of her career, or the end of her life. Her gaze flicked to Julien, a mix of determination and quiet fear in her eyes, sensing the storm brewing beneath his stoic exterior. "There," Julien whispered, his Creole accent soft but tense as he pointed to a faint glow in the center of the cemetery, flickering through the mausoleums. "That's where they'll be, where Leroux's finishin' the ritual. We move quiet, stay low. If we can get close, we use the medallion, take him out before he knows we're there." Celeste nodded, her voice low, meant for him alone. "We've got one shot at this," she said, her grip tightening on the derringer. "If he finishes that ritual, if he gets to you. We can't let that happen, Julien. We end this tonight." They moved forward, slipping through the cemetery like ghosts, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth, the full moon's light casting long shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. The glow grew brighter as they approached, revealing a clearing surrounded by ancient oaks, their gnarled branches draped with Spanish moss. In the center stood a massive stone altar, its surface stained with blood, a ritual circle drawn in ash around it, crescent moons encircled by thorns, the same symbols they'd seen on the victims. Torches burned at the circle's edges, their flames casting flickering light across a horrifying scene. Victor Leroux stood at the altar, his tall, lean frame draped in a black robe, his sharp features illuminated by the torchlight, his eyes glowing with a sickly red light. His dark hair was slicked back, his predatory smile fixed as he chanted in a language Julien didn't recognize, his voice a low, guttural hum that seemed to vibrate through the ground. Around him stood a coven of vampires, at least a dozen, their pale skin and glowing eyes a stark contrast to the darkness, their fangs glinting as they hissed in unison, their voices a chorus of malice. On the altar lay a young woman, her wrists bound, her eyes wide with terror, a fresh victim, her blood the final piece before the sacrifice of the marked one. Julien's stomach churned, his hand tightening on the medallion, its glow flaring brighter as he felt the pull of the ritual, a tug at his soul that confirmed his role as the marked one. "He's almost done," he whispered, his voice raw, his Creole accent thickening with dread. "We need to move now before he—" A twig snapped behind them, the sound sharp and jarring in the stillness, and Julien spun, his revolver raised, his heart pounding. A figure emerged from the shadows, her red dress a flash of color against the monochrome cemetery, her dark hair cropped in a flapper's bob. Eloise Dubois, Julien's younger sister, stood there, her expression a mix of fear and guilt, her hands trembling as she clutched a small knife, its blade glinting in the moonlight. "Eloise," Julien hissed, his voice a mix of shock and betrayal as he lowered his revolver slightly, his dark eyes searching her face. "What the hell are you doing here? I told you to stay away." "I'm sorry, Julien," Eloise whispered, her voice breaking, her beads clinking softly as she took a step back. "I didn't have a choice. Leroux, he's got people everywhere. They threaten me, Said they'd kill me if I didn't bring you here. I'm the betrayer. Celeste's breath caught, her green eyes wide with realization as she remembered the note in the 1895 file, a human accomplice, the betrayer, working with LaRue. Eloise, she said, her voice low, urgent, her derringer still raised. You don't have to do this. We can protect you, help us stop him. Eloise shook her head, tears streaming down her face, her voice a desperate whisper. You don't understand, he'll kill me, Julian. He'll kill us all. I thought if I brought you here, he'd let me go. But I can't. I can't let him take you. She raised the knife, her hands shaking, but instead of lunging at Julian, she turned, her gaze darting to the vampires in the clearing, a flicker of defiance breaking through her fear. The vampires sensed the disturbance, their hisses growing louder as they turned, their red eyes locking onto Julian and Celeste. LaRue's chant faltered, his head snapping up, his predatory smile widening as he spotted them. The marked one, he purred, his voice dripping with malice, his fangs glinting in the torchlight. You've come to me just as I knew you would. The ritual will be complete tonight. Julian's heart pounded, his hand tightening on the medallion, its glow flaring brighter as he stepped forward, shielding Celeste and Eloise with his body. You're not talking me, LaRue, he growled, his Creole accent thick with defiance. This ends now. LaRue laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed through the cemetery, and raised his hand, signaling his coven. The vampires surged forward, their claws extended, their hisses a chorus of death as they closed in. Julian fired his revolver, the gunshot cracking through the night, the bullet hitting one vampire in the chest, drawing a shriek of pain as black blood oozed from the wound. Celeste fired her derringer, the shot grazing another, but there were too many, their movements too fast, too fluid. Eloise, run! Julian shouted, pushing his sister toward the trees as he grabbed Celeste's hand, pulling her behind a mausoleum for cover. The vampires lunged, their claws slashing at the air, but the medallion's light burned them as they got close, their skin sizzling as they recoiled with shrieks of pain. Julian held the medallion high, its glow a beacon in the darkness, buying them a moment to regroup. We can't fight 'em all, Celeste whispered, her voice sharp with adrenaline, her green eyes darting to the clearing where LaRue had resumed his chant, the young woman on the altar screaming as he raised a dagger above her. We need to get to LaRue, stop the ritual before he kills her and comes for you. Julian nodded, his jaw tight, his dark eyes filled with a mix of rage and resolve. Cover me, he said, his voice gruff, his hand squeezing hers for a moment before letting go. I'll get to the altar. Use the mausoleums, stay out of sight. Celeste nodded, her derringer at the ready, her green eyes blazing with determination as she slipped into the shadows, firing shots to draw the vampire's attention. Julian moved forward, the medallion's light burning brighter, its hum a steady pulse as he navigated the cemetery, the vampires hissing and circling but unable to get close. He reached the edge of the clearing, his gaze locking onto LaRue, who stood over the altar, the dagger poised to strike, the ritual circle glowing with an unholy light. LaRue! Julian shouted, his voice a roar as he stepped into the clearing, the medallion held high, its light flaring like a small sun. You want me? Come and get me. LaRue's head snapped up, his red eyes narrowing, his predatory smile twisting into a snarl as he lowered the dagger, turning to face Julian. The vampires froze, their hisses falling silent, their gazes darting between their master and the marked one. The full moon's light bathed the scene in silver, the air crackling with the power of the ritual, and Julian knew this was his moment, the moment to end this, or to die trying. New Orleans was a city of graves, and tonight, one way or another, it would claim another.